Hello, it's Lethea from Farmview Creators. Today we're going to work on the interchangeable window box base and the Just Say Boo insert for it. So let's put this together. You have several pieces. These 4 pieces that are all the same, they are going to be stacked up and glued together, and I purposefully did that first because I wanted to give them time to dry. I spend a lot of time making sure that they are really straight and lined up perfectly before I put my clamps on, and then even after I put my clamps on, because you want this to be lined up because it is what gives the piece the stability to stand up on its own. So once I got that lined up the way I wanted, I got a little bit of OCD on that one. I went and let that dry, and I went in with 2 frames. One piece says back, and that is going to be your back layer of the frame. I painted that 2 sides of the back, just one side of the front, and glued those together, and I'm putting my little Dollar Tree clamps on them. Probably didn't have to do that, but I like to. And then I'm going to stack the 2 little long rods. You have 4 of them. You stack 2 and 2. I did paint my window with Waverly chalk paint in the color ink. And then I went and distressed it with Paint Couture's Purely White. So I'm getting those 2 sets of 2 thin strips stacked up. That's going to lay on your front panel. This is what is spacing it so that you can feed your tag or nameplate into the front of the window. And then you're going to put the scallops on, and you want the scallops to face each other. And again, you want to make sure that everything is nice and flush and lined up. So I did take extra care to make sure that I was getting everything lined up perfectly. And tried to take too much care and knocked it apart there, but it was an easy fix. And now we're going to put that piece A. It's actually scored on the window where you put that. So that is the actual piece that's going to hold the insert. You can see that insert groove. You want to get that again flush with your windows. And then on that, you're going to glue that stack of 4 that's had plenty of time to set up and get nice and dry. And you're going to get that flush with that piece that has the groove for the insert. And then that is going to hold it up. And that scalloped front plate covers up the unfinished wood. So you definitely do not need to paint all the pieces. And there you go. It stands up all on its own. And just making sure everything's lined up before I set it aside to let that finish drying. And we will work on the Just Say Boo insert for it. You can see how it inserts right there. Slots in perfectly. On this insert, I'm going to go in with Purely White Paint Couture. This is an acrylic mineral paint, and I am just going to do thin layers. I think I ended up doing 3 super thin layers. I did spray these pieces with top coat spray. It helps keep the paint from sinking so far into the scored lines that you want to still be visible. And giving that a good dry. I want to make sure all the layers are really dry before I start a new layer. And trying to be mindful of any paint that is building up on the edges, because that will interfere with the piece sliding into that scalloped holder. So that's where I run the brush on the edge. But you'll also see me later sanding that down a little bit. A lot of times on your lightest colors and your darkest colors, you have to do more coats than you would for those medium colors. So with this purely white, I did go in with 3 coats each. And just that third coat just really evened it out. Getting their little hands and nose. And then hitting the ghosts again. They're so stinking cute. I love the kits from the Rust Covered Cottage by Christina. They are cut so precisely and they always fit together so well. And then the Paint Couture paints just are so smooth and rich. So I'm going to give that some time to dry while I go in. And I'm going to hit the button and one of the bows with pitch black from Paint Couture. It's also an acrylic mineral paint. And then I'm going to go in with the words and the other bow with a sponge dauber because I don't like goopies in my words. It just does better with a sponge dauber. I'm using the color Purple Haze from Paint Couture. It's just a really pretty fall purple. Giving that a good dry before I go in with a second coat. Making sure I have full coverage with the sponge dauber. And here I am getting some excess off of the spots around the ghost, and that's where I pull out my sander to hit because you don't want any of that buildup. It will prevent your piece from sliding together like they should. Here I am kind of using a Cricut weeding tool to pull some of the paint out of the scored lines for the eyes and the eyebrows and the mouths of the ghosts because I want to be able to see them later. I'm giving that front panel a nice little sanding on the edges. And I'm going to go in with Magnolia's stencil. This is the fall welcome stencil. It came out about 2 years ago and it's used for a door round, and I thought it would make a nice little background, and I'm using the glittering black chalk paste for that. I'm going to give that a good dry and set it aside and go back to work on the ghost. I'm going to use Coral Passion and a stippling brush and just dabbing it on for the cheeks. I did not like how one of the cheeks came out. It needed to lean a little to the right. So I just used a wipe and wiped it off and went back to it. And I'm going to use Funsel's black acrylic markers. It comes in a variety pack with different sizes. And I'm going to trace over those scored lines. I didn't like how that eyeball came out, so I used a baby wipe, wiped it off, and did it again. I do the same thing with a little spot on her mouth. And then I'm going to get those lines for the boy ghost and get his mouth. So stinking cute. And give all that a good dry. And now I'm going to go in with my favorite Debi's DIY Dark Wax to distress all of the light colored pieces and the purple. And I didn't hit her bow because that is going to be covered. Anytime I had it too thick, I just wiped it back with my fingers, buffed it out wherever, and just kept getting more as I needed it. Going all the way around and then brushing just a little bit inside of each of those pieces. On the bow, I really used it to highlight the knot in the center of the bow. on the words, I like to keep them laying down most of the time so that they don't get all bent up. And then on the black pieces, I'm going in with a stippling brush and the purely white paint to give that a little bit of a distressed look. And you know I love dead flat top coat from Paint Couture. Takes out all the shine, gives you that nice matte look. So I'm going to hit everything with a thin layer. Of course, you know me, after this, I decided I wanted to do some more painting. So I got that dry, and as I was drying it, I had some more ideas. And I was second guessing myself, so I went ahead and glued everything together. So I'm getting all my letters lined up and making sure I can see those score lines to see where the pieces go. You'll see me tilt the piece to get the light to hit it just right. And I'm going in with my favorite art glitter glue and getting those pieces glued down for these sweet little ghosts. I'm not really a ghost person, but I love these two. I mean, aren't they so cute? And then I'm going to take that front panel piece and get my words on. I am tilting it and wiggling it to see the score lines to make sure that I have my words where they're supposed to be. I needed to adjust that first word. And then going in with my others. Once you get the light on those score lines, you can really see them, and it helps get them in there. So I have my pieces and my words, and I decided that the words in her bow were too dark. So I thought I would go in and just kind of brush on a little bit of the Firelight orange from Paint Couture. It's also an acrylic mineral paint, and I am hitting the words, trying to lighten them up and brighten them up because I felt like they were too dark on that background. If I had to do it again, I would probably paint those words orange or do my background orange and the words purple. Going in now with the end of a brush and my purely white and adding some accent dots. I wanted to see exactly how it laid in the window before I did this to kind of see what I wanted to highlight. I was going to try a chalk paint marker, but I just like the dots and the shape when I use the end of a paintbrush. And there you go. I love how it stands up all on its own, and it's such a cutie. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to like and subscribe it, and there will be more inserts for this window to come.